You're listening to the Wise Women Podcast, episode 14. I'm your host, Alisha Wilford, founder of Yoke and Abundance, a creative leadership coaching business. This podcast is designed to inspire by introducing you to creative women living abundantly. I hope you'll savor Danielle's words of wisdom as much as I have. Today's guest, Danielle Forrest, is the founder of Dani Inc. Dani is a marketing maven, a project manager, strategist, and so much more. Dani believes in giving you aha moments for your marketing. She's the person you want to talk to about any big projects you'd like to see happen or long-term marketing strategies that you want to implement. She's a big thinker with grand ideas that she always seems to be able to pull off. I hope you'll love getting to know Dani a bit in today's interview, but first, a word from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is Triad Local First, a nonprofit membership organization based in Greensboro, North Carolina, with members throughout the Triad. Triad Local First members include independent, locally owned retail shops, real estate agents, insurance brokers, marketing and advertising firms, accountants, dentists, restaurants, farmers, breweries, and more. TFL's mission is a commitment to building a strong local economy and a vibrant, unique community. The Buy Local season begins November 15th with holiday strolls happening November 17th and 24th and December 1st and 8th. For more information on how to support local independent businesses this holiday season and throughout the year, visit www.triadlocalfirst.com/buy-local-season. Could you state your name for me, please?
Danielle Forrest.
And Dani, how old are you?
I am 32 years young.
I love it. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Would you like to start with an animal spirit card?
Yes, I would. I'm so excited.
I am excited to be able to share these with you. You know, I do this with all of my coaching clients.
Right.
And it has been a fun thing that we've done. I always shuffle 3 times.
So what's our intention for today's card?
It's your card. So you get to ask the cards to guide you to see whatever you need to see today.
Okay.
Put your hands on the cards, close your eyes, and take a couple big deep breaths.
I always feel weird and like doing a deep breath. It's like, is that one deep enough?
Fire ant.
Ooh, a fire card.
That's really fascinating. Somebody else this week pulled the fire cards.
Really?
Yes. So fire cards are cards that represent that the heat is on, and they are what lead us towards change and transformation. And these are done by Kim Krantz, and what she says about the fire cards is that you have to remember that fire is the only thing that can turn darkness into light. So even though it feels like the heat is on, that's something that's going on.
That's beautiful.
It is really beautiful. I love what she's written. I'm going to go ahead and just read to you what the fire ant card is.
Also, when we did our year in review cards in January, June was Scorpion for me, which is another fire card.
It is another fire. So it's like the
fire,
heat
fire.
is on.
Yeah.
So it says fire ant, aggression, rigid thinking, following orders. Fire ant energy flares up without us noticing. It's the force that attracts us to people and situations that feed our imbalances rather than those that counter them. Gossiping and blaming are a few indicators that misaligned fire ant energy is at play. You may also find yourself stewing on a person or a situation, only making things worse. How can you break free from the drama and cool down? Fire ants are surprisingly sensitive. Don't pretend the heat isn't getting to you. When in balance, thoughtful and disciplined. When out of balance, argues, excess heat, gossip. To bring into balance, solo time and walks at night.
Ooh, walks at night. I like that.
I always like walks at night. So how does that land for you?
True. I feel like the gossip has been something I've been noticing. And I was reading the Scorpion description a couple days ago, and it was talking about feeling burned and going through that resolution process. And there's a couple situations I could think of where it's like, yeah, I felt burned.
So what will you do for a resolution?
I've been working on just letting it go and focusing elsewhere.
There's a song that comes to mind. Let it go.
I love the Frozen
Let
song.
it go.
Yes.
Who doesn't love Frozen? I mean, come on.
Right.
So good. Well, so we've known each other for almost a year now.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. I think a year in August will be kind of our friend-iversary. And we know each other through the entrepreneur world. Can you tell folks what it is that you do and what keeps you busy?
Yes. So what I do is marketing, strategy, and planning. And I help business owners and teams see those projects through to implementation. So whether it's a website redesign, you're working on a new program or event, or updating your promotional strategy, I like to come in early, help with the strategy and plan, create that, whether we're doing a story branding outline, a promotional plan, a buyer's journey, content calendar. So those are all examples of deliverables I've worked on, but then once that's complete, making sure it's seen all the way through. So working with an internal team or team members that I can bring on, different resources to see that project complete. So that's what has been keeping me busy, is working on those types of projects and bringing on new clients for that work.
And what's led you to where you are today?
That is a good question.
Can you give us kind of the background of where you started and how you found this current role?
Yes. So when I graduated, I had several different jobs within a 2-year period. I graduated in 2008. And I had read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I love the idea of having a muse and reoccurring passive income. So when I had my first job as a telecommunications rep, working at a very outdated company, and this was in Michigan where I grew up, I decided, why not start my muse now, my business on the side? So I co-founded Verde Lifestyles, and that was an e-commerce store selling eco-friendly home decor. And I had that business for 7 years, and it was always running in the background while I had different full-time jobs. So I eventually got more and more into marketing through different roles, for working at a social media company as the account manager, through a sales and marketing internship, and eventually I landed at the Detroit Institute of Arts. So it's the main museum in Michigan, the equivalent of the North Carolina Museum of Arts, except for, personally, I like the Detroit Museum of Arts collection a little bit better, but
I'm a big fan of the Toledo Museum of Art, so they've got a really amazing collection as well.
Yes, so I have my favorites.
I feel you. We're all biased in our own ways, right?
It's so true. It's like, oh, the lighting, the colors on the walls. So I started managing all of their online marketing, and eventually was in a role where I was managing their special exhibitions. So when Rembrandt came into town, or Fabergé, all these amazing shows, I got to be the point person on the marketing team who's managing that with the internal museum staff and with the agencies I would often bring on. So that was one of my favorite jobs. And eventually I left that job to move down to North Carolina. So my ex-husband's job brought us to Greensboro for him to work at a local agency. So I left that amazing position at the Detroit Institute of Arts and was deciding what to do next. And at the time, I decided to sell Verity Lifestyles and was working with a coach. I'll give a shout out to Marianne Hauser from Action Coach. We worked together for 2 wonderful years, and one of the decisions that she helped me make was what to do while I was in this place of limbo. I had left the DIA, I sold my business, I was not finding local jobs here that I was really excited about. So I decided to start an online marketing agency. That was JoyWorks Marketing. And I had that for two years. And that was a wonderful opportunity because I was able to work and travel. So during that time period, I was working from home, but realizing I could work from anywhere. So I convinced my husband at the time that if he built his freelance business, that we could go work and travel. And our apartment lease was coming up in 6 months. So I was like, okay, if there's going to be a time, this seems like the best one because there's never going to be a perfect time. So that led to 5 months abroad, living in Croatia for 2 months and Italy for 3. And it was just an amazing journey and experience where I was able to keep the business going. And then when I came back, it was like, whoa, reverse culture shock, big time. Also, it was like another identity crisis of what do I want to do? What am I building? Do I want to continue building this business? So I decided to stop JoyWorks Marketing. I had basically a virtual agency around 15 people, contractors I was working with, and I was part of a mastermind group with other agency owners, and it was just something that I did not ultimately want to continue building. It just seemed like I was on this hamster wheel. So I went inward again and asked myself, what do I want to do next? And that's when I started really honing in on the strategy and the planning piece and the parts of marketing that I really enjoyed and that I felt I excelled at. Because yes, I can do social media, I can do content marketing, email marketing, blogging, and advertising, all these different aspects, but it's the strategy and the planning and the project leadership that kept on pulling me back. So that is how I led to the work that I'm doing now. It's a long-winded answer, but that is my story.
Well, everyone's journey takes a long and winding road, right? To get us to wherever it is that we are. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I love so much about you is how you have this like mastermind, project manager, strategy brain that works so differently than I do. And it's this piece that's often missing to the puzzle of things that I do. Can you talk a little bit about what you do with strategy and project management?
Sure. That is a question that that I am getting better at answering. Because at first it was nebulous for me, so of course it was nebulous for other people. So the deliverables that I like to work on is a content calendar, whether 3 months, a year, outlining, okay, what is our theme for the month? What are we going to do for the blog? What are we going to do for social media? What are we going to do for email? And even before that, it's saying, okay, what are the core brand tenets? What are your core values? What are you really trying to do as a business? So a lot of the strategy work I do is working with the business owner, the project leader, and asking them to take 10 steps back. It's like, okay, let's look at this from 30,000 feet. And really getting understanding of the business. What are the business objectives? How does that filter into the marketing objectives? What is going on in your environment? What are your challenges right now? And then coming to the specific marketing components. So I was just working on a project for a women's tuxedo company in New York. She does custom tuxedos, and they're absolutely beautiful.
What's the name of that company again?
Tux Couture.
Yes.
Nancy's business.
It's a really cool company.
It is. It's one of those projects where you're like, wow, this is awesome. And that's in collaboration with youve, the women's marketing collaborative that I'm a part of, and that you are a part of.
That we are both a part of, yes.
Go team.
There's a virtual high five happening right
now. So the strategy and planning work is really taking a step back, having a better understanding of the business, and then that eventually leads to a content calendar, a promotional plan. And one of the pieces that I've been really excited about lately is what's called a story brand outline. So it's taking the hero's journey and applying it to your marketing. So you have a character who has a problem, who meets a guide, who gives them a plan, who calls them to action, who helps them avoid a failure and have a success. And at the end, you have character transformation. So you take one of your customers and you walk them through each of those steps. And there's more details for each, but it's a wonderful marketing tool because it helps with the buyer's journey. It helps you hone in on your marketing messages and gives you so many different pieces to help you move forward from a tactical perspective. So that's what I've been doing lately around strategy.
That sounds really fun. Yeah. Thinking back over your career as an entrepreneur, what do you think the scariest challenge I'm going to start that over. Thinking back on your career as an entrepreneur, what's one of the scariest things that you've faced as an entrepreneur?
The scariest. The uncertainty of knowing when your next paycheck is coming. I find it very easy to start projects. It's often the closing of major businesses or projects that is scary to me. So selling Verde Lifestyles, deciding to close Joyworks Marketing, those were scary decisions for me. It was never in the starting of it that I feared anything. It's like, oh, this is exciting.
You're really good at jumping in head first.
Yes.
So what has helped you handle the uncertainty?
Going to the gym, lots of meditation. I've also started doing Reiki work, energy work. So I became certified for level 2 in January. So I've been doing that. I love to go down rabbit holes, and I will go down many at a time. So I'll try this and I'll try that and just see what works. I've been doing a lot of listening to Abraham Hicks rampages while checking email or working on other projects. So she talks a lot about the law of attraction. And so there's always something that I'm trying to do throughout the day to keep me in the right headspace.
In alignment with yourself and your core values and your inner being.
Exactly. Like I need to feel centered and balanced in order to do the work. Just live, really. And that helps keep me sane.
That's one of the things that I really wish was taught in schools, that we would have learned as little kids, is what to do to come home to yourself when you're feeling scared and uncertain.
Yes. There was one book that I actually went back to the other night, was called Getting Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life. It's actually a really in-depth workbook, and it has all these different tools and tactics for looking at your thoughts, being with your feelings, and that has been really helpful to be like, okay, this is normal. A feeling's coming up. What am I going to do with it? And just that self-awareness and being with yourself and understanding, like, oh, this is just a thought. This is just a feeling. Like, I am more than this, but right now this feels really overwhelming, or, insert emotion here.
Even good emotions.
Right.
And one of the things that, I'm a positive psychology practitioner, so one of the things that we talk about as positive psychology practitioners is that emotions aren't bad. No emotion is a good emotion or a bad emotion. It doesn't matter if you're feeling sad or happy or frustrated or angered. The emotion itself isn't bad, but it's when you get stuck in whatever that emotion is. If you get stuck in happiness, well, that's called mania, and that can become an issue too, right? Or if you get stuck in the sadness and the uncertainty, that's an issue, and that's when you need all of those other tools. And you named some really amazing tools, like the exercising and the meditation, and I think you might have said walks, or we talked about walks. All of those are really great tools. So as a coach, that's something I'm always really excited to talk to people about is, okay, what emotion are you stuck in right now? And how can we move from that emotion into a healthier place?
For sure.
Yeah. Because you have so many projects going, as you said, you like to go down the rabbit holes of the different projects. Is there one project right now that you are over the moon to be a part of right now?
Over the moon.
I'm very excited.
Very excited. Can I say I'm very excited about them all? It really is. I find so much joy and pleasure in having multiple things going on at once, because my brain can ping pong between them. So when I've done something for the website project I'm working on, I can just bounce to the work with Yancy, and then bounce to the healing center project I'm working on, or the storytelling through women's accessories project that is my own personal project. So each of them has their time and their place and adds value to my life.
I'm sure that a lot of people listening are wondering, okay, that's so cool that you have all of these different projects going on, but how do you balance that? How do you juggle so many different projects and make sure that you're not dropping the ball on one of them, and you're moving forward, and that you are able to stay centered and grounded in yourself?
Right now, the projects are in a place where I'm doing a little bit of each, and it feels manageable to me. So some of the things I've been working on is like abundance mindset, and that applies to not only energy, money, but also time. And that was something I was actually thinking about on the way here. I was like, oh, I really need to finish this presentation. And I was looking at my to-do list for tomorrow, and there's a lot going on, and I know I'll be in Raleigh, and blah, blah, blah. The thought train goes on. But I was thinking, you know what? It's all going to get done. I often overestimate how long a particular task will take. So when I look at my list and I see it's like, oh my God, I have 8 things. Why do I have 8 things? It's like, yes, I could pare it down, but also rethinking, well, you know what? This is only going to take 15 minutes, and this piece is only going to be 30. And if I don't get to it today, I will get to it another day. So it's more so managing my perception than managing the projects right now. Like, certainly that comes into play because I'm a project manager. I'm very organized. I've got my, my Basecamp and my Google Docs and notes in my phone and notes in my purse. And I'm constantly getting thoughts out of my head to make sure that they get done at some point. But I think that has been the larger part of it, is what is my perception of this?
Danny, yes, I'm so excited. Like, hearing you say that makes me so excited. That's something that I've been thinking about as well. You and I are into very similar types of research and books and podcasts, and I've been listening to The Lively Show quite a bit recently, and I think I've listened to everything in her last season, and one of the things that she talks about is how the lack of time is a myth, and that it is a complete mind shift and an abundance mindset, and it's really how we think about things that tells us where time is. So I think that's an incredible answer. Thank you so much for sharing.
I'll have to check out The Lively Show because I haven't heard of that.
Oh yeah, it's great. Check it out. We might have to add a link in the show notes to that. In the book that you were talking about, the getting out of your mind and into your life workbook, I'll definitely add that to the show notes as well. What's one thing recently that you've done that's scared you and taken a lot of courage, but you're glad you've done? It can be business or life, and little or big.
Well, examples come up for both. For business, there was actually a project where I felt like I was no longer able to add value. I felt frustrated with where things were at, and I did not know what to do to move it forward. It was almost at a stalemate. And I decided to pass that project on to someone else to complete because I felt like I was no longer the best person to move it forward. So that was a point of stress for me. Not only the project, but thinking through, well, isn't this my responsibility? Shouldn't I finish this project? What will they think? What does this mean for future projects? Like, what if I get to this point and I keep on backing out of projects? So it was something where it's like, wait a second, we're going down this feedback loop from hell. And let's take a look at the situation on hand and work with that rather than all these what ifs that were running through my mind. So that was something that I found challenging.
Can you talk a little bit about that process of how you went from listing out? I can just picture how this happens for me, of that in my head, that running list of the what if, what if, what if, what if, what if. How did you interrupt that pattern to step back and say, no, there's another solution, and the solution is me stepping away from that project?
Yeah. I like to talk to myself.
You do that. You do that all the time.
Yeah. Well, not just like there's talking to yourself. Like I'll be working on my computer and kind of like silently like reading something.
And I should say I know this because we work in the same co-working space. And every now and then you'll say something. I think you're talking to me. And you're like, no, I'm just talking to myself.
Well, I also do this at home in my yard.
I love it.
Where I'll just go outside and I'm like, okay, what needs to come up? What needs to get out? I tried journaling and sometimes I enjoy it, but most of the time I don't have patience for it because my thoughts are going faster than I'm writing. So I just need to word vomit to the universe outside. So that was really helpful to come back to center. But also, like, yes, I was breaking down, I was crying, I was stressed out. So there was that before getting to the, I'll just do X, Y, and Z.
There's the messy part.
Yeah. Got a little messy.
And that's okay. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
I feel like I know the answer to this question. So I'm going to ask it just in case you're going to surprise me with an answer that I don't know. But what's the work you most want to be doing? And are you doing it? And if not, what's stopping you?
The work I most want to be doing. I want to be doing more of what I'm currently doing.
That's a great answer.
I feel like good things are happening. I'm enjoying the work I'm doing. I finally feel like I know what I'm doing. And I want more of it. Like, I want to play bigger. I want more clients. I want bigger clients. I just want more. Was that the answer you were expecting?
No. I love it. Kind of the answer that I was expecting.
Yeah, it's that plus, I briefly touched on this before, one of my projects is storytelling through women's accessories. So I have my client projects and my own personal projects. So I am excited for that too. I am rethinking my thinking. I guess that still applies. About my own projects of what I want to build. Because I've started several businesses, and starting a business is a lot of work. It's emotional, it's, I guess, physical. I don't know. It's a lot either way.
Emotional, financial, physical. It takes a toll on relationships. It can take a toll on health. I mean, all of these things, right? All of those things. And all of that is a mindset too, depending on how you look at it.
Exactly. So I want to do more partnerships, more collaboration around new projects. So instead of it being me starting a new business, it's like, okay, how can I leverage what someone else is already doing or what I am already doing? There's no need for me to start at ground zero with most of the ideas that I come up with. And it's taking a step back for myself, which is often harder to do than with clients because it's me, and saying, this is what I want to do. This is the essence of what I want. And while I think I could do it in this way, but what are the other ways that I could also do this? So for the women's accessories, I had this grand idea of a curated e-commerce shop, and I was going to use a museum model where we would have, items for sale, and there'd be a membership. And I was overlaying all these different ideas that I had. I was like, wait a second, let's back up. So I decided to do a few small event series based on the idea and partner with a local store to pull it off. So is coming back to what is it really I'm wanting to do with this project and how could I do it in an easier way? So in marketing terms, what is my minimal viable product? So to summarize, what I want is more partnerships, more collaboration, and just more of what I'm currently doing.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing it. What do you feel like your purpose is right now?
My core values are joy, abundance, beauty, and growth. So, I don't remind myself every day that these are my core values. I feel like at some point during the week, I ask myself, what am I adding? Even if it's just taking the time to chat with a friend or go outside and enjoy the garden outside of HQ Greensboro. So I think it's in the small things that my purpose comes through.
I am a huge proponent of core values.
Yes, it was in the company of women that I refined them. So thank you.
Anytime. I mean, I even taught a lunch and learn yesterday on the importance of core values and then how to go through finding them, because I feel like if you are clear on what your core values are, then when you're out of alignment. When you're not on the right path. And if you know what those core values are, it really helps you get to where you want to be if you're not there yet.
Yes.
Yeah. And your core values are so fun. That joy is front and center is beautiful, because how often do we take the time to let joy be front and center in our lives?
Yes.
What are some of the ways that you bring joy into your life?
The other day I watched a funny cat YouTube video. I needed to get my day started. It was the Tuesday after the holiday weekend. Just laughing with friends and taking the time to go for a walk around the block and really being present with people. I've been having a lot of fun going to different events and outings and having drinks with girlfriends. So that's been very fulfilling.
Thank you. And I'll ask you about another one of your core values towards the end of this interview.
Okay.
What advice would you give if you could sit down, little Danny, little graduating from high school Danny or graduating from college Danny, what would you tell her? What advice would you give your younger self?
Chill out, girlfriend.
And how should she chill out?
I can be very persistent. When there's something that I want, it becomes all-consuming. And there's lots of things that I want. So instead of it being so laser focused, just have it be a broad focus and take the time to put your attention elsewhere. So it kind of comes back to the way I think about projects, jumping from one to the other. It's how I think about life is if I'm hyper focused on, say, getting a new job, moving out of the house from my parents. Yes, those things are important, but also there needs to be a certain amount of detachment. So that's what I mean by chill out. It's knowing that it's all going to come together in the perfect time, in the perfect way, and to honor that process, even though I often don't like it.
Yes.
It's this is taking too long.
Impatience.
What is happening?
That's a quality we both share.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. I got this question today from somebody I really respect. And since you've been entrepreneur-minded for such a long time, from such a young age, I'm curious if you got pushback from people that you cared about or from family members on the choices that you were making, be it in I'm thinking pretty specifically in starting your own businesses in the entrepreneur world, but I mean it can really be for anything. And what advice would you give them?
Pushback. Ooh, what advice I would give them? I think it comes back to coming back to center and knowing what you want again. There are still times when people will say, why don't you just get a job? And it's really challenging when you're trying to do what you do, but it's not only yourself but other people who you feel this pressure from. So it's the self-pressure is enough, but to have pressure from other people just adds to that. So I don't know if I have good advice for that right now.
I really think what you said is helpful because it sounds to me like what you're saying is to thine own self be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a tough one.
It is. It is. Thank you. Is there a piece of advice or a motto that you love and you use in your daily life?
I have a quote in my email signature, but I'm not sure if I can remember it right now. It basically talks about coming from your soul and following a river of joy. It's a Rumi quote. I probably just butchered it, but to me, it epitomizes flow. Being in your flow, honoring the flow.
Yes.
And it has the word joy in it, so of course I use that quote.
Ties into your core values. Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. What keeps you creating when you don't feel like it?
Ooh, so I was actually on your website the other day reading some of the Wise Women Wednesday posts because it's been a while since I caught up with that. So I was checking out a couple of other people's answers to that question. I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. It was Hillary Norman's, and I can't remember actually what it was right now, but she did some sort of visualization exercise. I was like, wow, I love that.
She also goes to work out. She's like, I tricked myself into thinking that I should be doing something else when I'm working out. I was like, that's a great, because I personally often, health is a core value of mine. And so it's so important for me to go running, but being an entrepreneur, I feel like I have to have a head down all the time working. I get up at, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and I just get to work because my mind is racing. I'm like, oh, I'll go for a run at 9, and then 9 will come and I'll be like, well, I can do that run at noon. So, and then when I'm running and my brain is finally, when I finally I'm like, nope, Alisha, no more putting it off, go run. Then I feel like all these great creative ideas come to me when I'm out there running. Sometimes I'll even have to stop and make myself a note on my phone.
That's awesome. Yeah, working out is key for me. I have to move my body. I mean, even at HQ when I'm working there, I'm probably fidgeting and dancing to music while working.
I wish everyone listening to this could experience the joy of watching you work. You're at the standing desk. Every now and then you talk to yourself, and every now and then you do a big stretch, like a big full body stretch.
Doing that right now?
Yeah, it's great. So, speaking of working out, do you have a favorite yoga pose? I love yoga.
Right. Oh. What have I been doing lately? I did dancer's pose this morning in the sauna. That was pretty amazing. So I'll go with that one.
That's a big one.
Yes.
Yeah. Given that abundance is one of your core values, and this is Yoke and abundance, and I really believe in living from a place of abundance, how do you personally live from, what does abundance mean to you, and how do you live from a place of abundance?
What does abundance mean to me? It's always evolving. It means there's more, there's extra, there's enough, there's plenty. And I apply that to energy, to time, to money. Because when I get stressed out about not having enough, it's that downward spiral.
Because what you focus on grows, right?
Yes. And also, there was something from that workbook I mentioned, Get Out of Your Mind, where they talk about the willingness dial. To always have the willingness dial be up. Even if it's, so let's say that I am freaking out about money or something. And to say to myself, for the next 2 minutes, I'm going to fully experience this freak out. I'm going to be with it and turn that willingness dial to 10. Just for 2 minutes. And to allow myself that time instead of being like, oh my God, negative thought, negative feeling, push it away. But to honor that, because in the pushing it away, it just makes it worse. So to give myself that space to be with it, to be like, oh yes, I am freaking out. Wow, this is an interesting experience. So to me, living a life of abundance also means honoring your feelings and meeting yourself where you are at. Because while I have all these grand visions and I would love to feel good all the time, but the reality is that we're all human. We have breakdowns, we have moments. I have those moments. And to include that in your vision of abundance and a life well lived.
Absolutely. Jess Lively, another thing she talks about around that, when you are having the feeling, or if you have the thought that seems like really bad, and just what you're saying, not the pushing it away. She says that she thanks the thought. Like it could be some horrendous thought, but it's like, well, thank you for being present.
I love that.
And then like next, right? You know, I don't know that she said that, but okay, I'm having this. Because in the pushing away, that's resistance, right? Well, Danny, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope you were inspired by Danny's words of wisdom. If you've enjoyed this podcast, head over to iTunes, give us a review, and then remember, sharing is caring. So please, share this podcast with a friend that could use a dose of inspiration and wisdom. When you share this podcast, it makes it possible for us to keep bringing wise words your way. Check out our website, yokeandabundance.com, for more words of wisdom, creativity tips, and information about my group and individual coaching programs. A huge thank you to our sponsor, Triad Local First, and my wonderful editor and producer, Ira Sterling at Julia Sound Recordings. Remember, every one of us has wisdom within. Keep sharing your words of wisdom because you never know who you'll inspire.